Hello people, this is Ryder here to review the Ultraman New Generation Stars, DX Ultimate Bracelet, and New Generation Brooch. So finally, after 2 years, we finally get another retail New Generation Stars specific item. Because you don't recall, last year's specific New Generation Stars item was a premium Bandai release due to it being a Hyperkey premium set. This time, this is technically the first DX release of the Ultimate Bracelet, because when it was initially released back in 2012, it was credited under, or it was released as the Saga Bracelet and such. However, this one is obviously reverted back to the Ultimate Bracelet. So obviously we have Zero with the Ultra Zero mantle, and then again we got Zet up there because he's again the second core character of the third season of New Generation Stars with the New Generation mantle, thanks to the New Generation Brooch. I really do like the green pillar Land of Light side and such. The top here showcases all of Zero's forms, because if you look at the left, it literally tells you all the forms you can access with the Ultimate Bracelet. The right side just has the contents, the PDF file for the instructions, the QR code for the PDF file, and then the back, again, just tells you about everything you can do about it and such. So this introduction took way too long to try to film. So here we have the contents of the set, the Ultimate Brace itself, and the New Generation Brooch, which we will actually take a look at and such first, because this is basically what took the entirety of the paint budget. So, you know, the New Generation Brooch is literally just a pin, or it's more of a badge and such. Like, I really like the design of the brooch. Such, it has this blue gem here in resemblance of the Ultimate Brace, and again, the entire front is silver paint, which looks really nice. The back of it is, you know, just kind of gray plastic, or silver plastic. No, it's gray. And again, a clip for your shirt and such. So, again, if I actually did get it, I think for when this got released, there was a campaign going on for kids to obtain the actual New Generation cape to clip on, and the cape had a specific spot for the brooch to sit on. So, so that's technically the only way to actually get an official clip for, or an official way to use the clip for it. But other than that, we're gonna probably have to wait another 2 years for them to officially put out an adult size New Generation cape, like what they've done with the Ultra Zero mantle. Anyways, here we have the Ultimate Brace itself. Again, this is technically the first DX release of this thing since 2012. Because obviously, despite debuting in the Ultraman Zero movie, a toy of it never got made until 2012 to coincide with Ultraman Saga, because in Ultraman Saga it was branded as the Saga Brace. But obviously in this case it's back to it being its original name, the Ultimate Brace. And yeah, for the most part, the bands are just, you know, silver. It's just gray plastic. The only paint present is just this section here. So the gem, or obviously this is clear blue plastic, or transparent plastic, but this is mainly all the silver. And if you couldn't tell from the most part, this is the back of it. This is the strap. This is the nylon strap, Velcro strap. But if you couldn't tell for the most part, this is a modification of the Ultra Replica Ultimate Brace. To the point you can remove this front piece here and see all the silver paint that got painted under here. Obviously, the reason why this mold's able to do this was because you needed to do this to change. For the Ultra Replica, you need to do this to change the Ultimate Brace into the Saga Brace, because the Ultra Replica version did not allow you to actually pull the plate down to transform it, because that's not how the prop worked. Obviously, they did that through visual effects, but the actual prop was just two pieces. It was the Ultimate Brace plate and then the Saga Brace plate. But obviously, for this release, we do not have the Saga Brace plate. So it's just kind of a random removable piece. I guess you can glue it down if you want, but then I don't know. I think it's funny that you can remove that. But yeah, other than that, like, the design of this thing is really basic. The back, again, like what I said, it's a modification of this mold because they needed to. I think it's because they needed to actually add in these, like, they needed to add in a loop for the strap, because the original toy did not have a strap, because how you originally took it off is literally from this section. Obviously, this was a full ring. You unlatched it, you put your hand through it, and then you collapsed it. So, so this was how you originally put it in your hand, but because obviously they took this part out, you needed to put the strap in. Now, this is kind of difficult putting back in, but I will do it for the sake of this. This is definitely one of the weirdest straps we've ever received. It definitely feels like something that would have came from the early 2000s, honestly. Or not even then, because I think it does come in packed like this. And it does seem durable. It honestly looks more like electrical tape. But, you know, again, I guess the Velcro strap is appreciated. And again, this is a speaker hole that falls down here. This is the battery cover, which it requires, or it has 3 LR44s already installed. This is the on and off switch. We'll get to that later. But this is kind of difficult, obviously, because this toy was never meant to have a strap. So this is kind of difficult for you to loop through, because you really have to push through this section just because of all of these, because of how thick this is. You really have to push through it. You have to really push this side out just enough so then you can pull it out, because it would tend to get stuck into this divot. So you kind of have to try to bend it in and such, obviously without destroying the strap. So I struggled with it a lot in the demo, but that's not good. Yeah, that's not good. We'll straighten that out. And then again, to strap it to your wrists, just simply, like, again, because this thing was not meant to have a wrist strap, it's really tight in terms of like just trying to get this on you, because you don't have enough room, because you're fighting with these parts. But once you got it on, it looks really nice. Or it looks nice. Like, yeah, just ignore this underside, but like for the most part, like, you know, the strap doesn't break the silhouette. I like that they even bothered doing. They at least bothered keeping these parts. It is weird because then you don't have a part to close it, but understandably so, because then I think it would have hindered this and such. But like, yeah, the ultimate brace is really nice on here. It's really nice on your wrist. So yeah, that's probably the most I'll do for that and such. As we move on to the sounds now. So to turn on the ultimate brace, as you can see here, it's on the X right now, and there's either a singular dot or two dots. We want to move this down to the singular dot and such. And if we do that like so, we find the power switch. So there's the activation sound, and this one actually does have newly recorded lines of 0 and such. So speaking of those lines, if we hold down the button, there's obviously the phrase of Zero's entrance, his signature phrase, or some of his signature phrases. Obviously a line associated with the New Generation Brooch and such. So those are our 4 lines of dialogue. Now for the rest to play with this thing, all you have to do is just simply press the button down to cycle through 33 lines, not 33 lines, a sequence of 33 sounds. So obviously this is the first sequence, or our first batch is obviously just of Ultraman Zero. And the finisher. So that's basically how, so obviously if you don't recall, the box showed that there are 10 forms of Zero that you can cycle through, and basically each form of Zero has 3 sounds. So the first sound will be a quick transformation of that form, the grunt, followed by the grunt, and then it will conclude with the finisher and such. So let's go on with the next 9. Obviously, Ultimate Zero was the second form he acquired. And then here, obviously, it's going to technically Zero's 2 main, like, side forms. So obviously this one's Strong Corona Zero. And the other being Luna Miracle Zero. Sorry about that. So, like, obviously with the 3 forms we just went through are basically the 3 forms that are already locked into the Ultimate Brace and such, because Shining Ultraman Zero was essentially the last form he obtained throughout the Ultra Fight Zero. Then, interesting enough, they already jump right into Ultimate Shining Ultraman Zero, which obviously comes from Ultra Galaxy Fight: The Absolute Conspiracy. Then these next two. We got Zero Beyond, which is, and with that, obviously, this is the reason why I said that these transformations are more quick transformations into the forms rather than the full, like, length versions and such, because obviously, like, Zero Beyond has an entire composition. Obviously, I'm not doing it, but, like, obviously, just make sure you don't cover these two holes down here. We have the second version of Zero Beyond, Galaxy Glitter version, obviously coming from Ultra Galaxy Fight New Generation Heroes. And then we got Ultraman Zero Wild Burst coming from Ultra Galaxy Fight The Destined Crossroad. Now this one's interesting because instead of a grunt, we get a phrase. Now I don't know if that one's a re-recording or if that one's pulled straight from the mini-series itself. This is the only one I don't really know the finisher for. But last but not least, we have Ultraman Saga. And technically, again, by this case, it's not supposed to be this. So, we will accurately portray the Saga brace like so. They finally reverted the Saga grunt back into that because Blazer and Arc changed it to like a shorter one that was inaudible. But last but not least, I don't know if that's supposed to be the Saga Maximum. I doubt it. Anyways, if we were to press it again, oops. Yeah, it just cycles back and such. So like it would have been cool if it was that. I guess for some people it probably would have been better if it was just that you held it down and then it mode changed, but obviously the phrases are relegated to that because again, I think the reason why they got rid of this band here is because the band here was what actually were the small back buttons for this toy. And obviously by removing that, we don't have that axis and such. But that is it for this mode. If we were to switch it to the top two buttons, if we were to play this through, let's do Ultimate Shining Ultraman Zero. Yeah, this is simply just a lower volume mode, which is interesting. It's interesting that they decided to just utilize. It's a it's an interesting way of utilizing the mode. Because they didn't need to. The only reason why this is here, obviously, because this was mode 1, this was mode 2 in the Ultra Replica, but obviously, I think in this release, they were just like, whoa, we don't want to just leave this one out in waste. Like, like they didn't want to just not do anything about it. So, honestly, I have to give it to Bandai for giving the consumer the option of either playing this in its normal loud volume or in a more decreased volume. I at least appreciate that. I do like the activation phrase when you turn it on in this mode, because you do get a different phrase from Zero, and he's like kind of a bit more confused. But honestly, I appreciate it and such, just for again, for those that really don't want to, you're playing this at like 3 a.m. in the morning and you want to do the ultimate um shining ultimate Zero, and don't want to wake up anyone, you could do it at the comfort of this mode, which is why I did that mode. But yeah, my thoughts overall on this release, it's really neat. It's really nice to actually have a mainline item within New Generation Stars again after its absence for Season 2, because it was the premium Bandai. It was a premium Bandai release because it was a Guts Hyper Key set. And like, it's just, again, I am gonna credit this under New Generation Stars simply because of the brooch, but other than that, like, I do obviously, because all the stuff regarding the Ultimate Brace comes from a lot of stuff. But I mean, distinctively, obviously the Ultimate Brace debuted in The Revenge of Belial, or the Ultraman Zero movie. So if you want to pinpoint where it was from, I mean, more importantly, that movie and Saga. So, but honestly, like, again, I like the sounds and such. They're all, for the most part, new sounds. They're all new edits of these existing sounds. Obviously, especially for Zero Beyond and such. I really do like that they did get his voice actor back to re-record lines, because again, we're at the point where a lot of premium items, and like even they're doing it now for the new generation heroes, obviously, they're just stripped directly from the show. So like, they're kind of, I mean, whatever Subaraya gives to Bandai, they're kind of at the point where they don't really need to like bring the actors back in to re-record stuff, because they can just simply go through whatever Subaraya supplied them and just go from that. But like, I do appreciate that like new lines were re-recorded, and all of like the existing, like, just simply like the self announcements and the attack names have been re-recorded and such. Again, the only one I'm not really too sure about is Wild Burst, but I know for sure like Ultraman Saga got re-recorded. Just like, obviously, I think the transformations for sure. It's just like the like quick transformations. Those definitely were re-recorded phrases and such. So again, I think this is definitely a really neat toy to pick up. Obviously, if you are a fan of Zero, or if you just like the Ultimate Brace, or just want a form to pick up the Ultimate Brace that is not the one back from 2012, I do want to pick up the Saga Brace. I really do, just because I really do like the look of the Saga Brace and such. But that thing obviously just does not have a good speaker. It was at that period where like dialogue, or like, you know, the toys that made their own sounds that have dialogue, they just were for some reason a lot deeper than what they were supposed to be. So like, Zero and Daigo's lines in that toy are just like really deep. But I want to get it for the sake of novelty, because I already own the original Zero. I own a version of the Zero Eye. I would have liked if the thing is that Bandai China released the Saga Brace, but not Bandai Japan, because they did this instead. But again, that's just because Bandai China did do a re-release of this thing under their DX line and such. But they do that with all the Ultra replicas. So this is kind of a different topic, but it's just like, you know, with this, the Super Best Ultra Z Riser, I hope this is a direction where Bandai will actually push out the Ultra replica molds for, like, you know, the Spark Lens, Mebius Brace, or like even like the Orb Ring, and like just push them under the Super Best line. I think that would be cool. Again, this thing technically does not get the Super Best like line or like, texture, because again, in a technicality sense, the Ultimate Brace never got re-released because it was under the Saga Brace. I'm sorry for constantly restating that. I think this was $5 more than the Ultra Sound Narikiri Ultra Zero Eye, because I think this thing was around like $30 or so, which I do think is kind of worth it for like the amount of sounds you get for it. And again, just, you know, the brooch it's a nice bonus and such. It would have been funny if I actually had the like new generation cape, but as I said before, I'm pretty sure like Super Aya Fashion will actually put that out eventually and such. Again, I don't really know about the availability of this, nor the Sound Narikiri Ultra Zero Eye, just because I don't know if it was just the case of where you had to like actually pick it up in the month it got released, and like, you know, within the aftermarket it's going to get difficult to like search for it. I'm not too sure about that, but hopefully I doubt this is an in-demand item. I doubt a lot of things for season 3 are in demand, just because it's not like a purely new toy per se and such. But honestly, again, if you want a toy in lieu to the Ultra Replica Ultimate Brace, but don't want, like, this is a really nice substitute and such. Whether you decide to get the first Ultra Replica release, or for some reason you get the damaged version or damaged edition, which is, it's kind of obvious why that they decided to do this release, because they were working on that release. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is Ryder, no people buy.